So, guys, this is one of my favorite collections on Comic Art Fans. The guy who built it might be the most honest collector I know, and one of my favorites. And, he buys what he buys, and he calls himself eclectic. But I think there's a hidden logic there. So I'm going to prove it on camera today with some of the things that he's been navigating. Please welcome Mr. Jason Richardson. My co-host from Valiant TLDR.
That's right.
Yeah. What's up, Jason? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm good. I miss you, man. We missed you at Heroes Con as well. It's been a long time since we got to hang out. So thanks for making time.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, many of you guys know you as Southern Comic Geek, and in your gallery you have 800 plus pieces, and the community watches you. And you're a husband, you're a father of 6. You've been collecting since 1989. And so, yeah, we also share a disease called Valiant universe. And so we dove deep into that through Valiant TLDR. So real quick, why Southern Comic Geek?
So when I was starting YouTube, I wanted something that would stand out. And so people say I have a accent. I don't really get it, but they say I do. So I thought I'd throw the Southern in there. At first it was Southern Comic Nerd. They didn't really have the same ring. And so Southern Comic Geek. The other thought being something that would be applicable to all platforms. So I would be Southern Comic Geek on everything. Sometimes you'll have your YouTube name this and your IG name that. I didn't want that. I wanted something that I could use straight across the board.
All right. So this is about your galleries. We're going to dive right in. So the first page we're going to look at is XO 14, okay. The first Eric and Turok meeting. So let's pull that out, man. Let's take a look at it.
All right. Let's see. We got this right here. Yeah. So this is one of the, let's see, the broker, Carl Choi.
There we go. There we are. My name on the back. That is freaking hilarious. Randy. What's up, Randy?
So this is a piece of history here, as both of these guys were in the Lost Land, but they never ran across each other, strangely enough. And both were, Turok was convinced by Mother God that she was right. And of course, XO was always against her. But so they've all come, they're men from outside of their time, and they've come here, and they finally, he's chasing down the dinosaurs. Turok knows they're already there. This is when they first actually meet face to face. If everybody's familiar with Valiant and some other comics from the era, they're well known for their staining. This is a stat right here, but the actual art, the pencils are up under there, and you can see where Bart said, hey, I don't think this is the direction I want to go. Don't ink this. So he came back with a separate board, and thankfully it is in preserved state. But yeah, so this is a part of Randy's collection that he still had after all these years. And I got these via the broker, and then I got Bart to sign them for me last year. So
can I also say I'm the broker that had the worst eye, because I had first pick on stuff, and I remember going through it, and for one reason or another, all I picked was Turok stuff. And I think you had second pick on everything. So then I saw you pick all these Turok XO stuff. Like, how come I did not see any of the XO stuff at all? So I guess my miss was beneficial for your collection for sure.
I'm a story collector, and so hence, a lot of people would say, well, there's a lot of better art for art's sake than what Valiant has, especially in the VH1 era. But I'm a story collector, and Valiant's known for their stories, and so that when you sent me that file, that's what I was looking for. It's like the storyboard moments.
I love it
in those issues.
Yeah, I'm glad you found it. It really belongs in your collection, just given how deep you've gotten with all the different story moments, which we'll get into more later. And so I want to not just talk about Valiant, because I think you and I can just chat Valiant for 6 more hours. So I also wanted to pivot into another page that you had, which was the first appearance of Talon. It was the first Talon Batman fight, Greg Capullo, Jonathan Glapian. So like, talk about this page and what it means to you.
Yeah, so this is one of the ones that you have the video on. Yeah, so this page, somebody had suggested this comic to read back when it came out. I was not reading Batman at that time. And so it was a good dive back into Batman lore. Scott Snyder was really killing it. I think it's a widely held belief that the New 52, the best story was in Batman. And so they were crushing it as far as Capullo and him's storytelling, and Glapian on the inks. I was able to pick this up on Comic Link for a much better deal than what the dealer was previously selling it for. I've had multiple people try to get wrest this out of my collection, even as soon as last month, trying to figure out a way to try to get it. But so there's one page prior to this one. The person I'm talking about actually owns the page prior to this one, where the Talon is on the page, but he's just standing there. So this is where he attacks. So this is the first time that they attack. Interestingly enough, all of the pages from the Court of Owls have separate inks and pencils, but it allows you to see that there's a transposing that takes place in positioning where Batman and the Talon trade places. So it's one way on the pencils page, and it's another way on the inks page. So, and they even noted on there they changed the order. So I guess they did it digitally.
So for those of us who, I mean, this is blasphemous, I know, but I never read Court of Owls. What is the significance of Talon? Is he the main bad guy? Is he Bane?
All right, so like the Court of Owls is basically the main villain, and the Talons, because there's more than one of them, are the henchmen, so to speak, to go out there and the will upon the people. So if people watch the original Batman by Nolan, and if you watch the one where Ra's al Ghul comes in and the League of Shadows and the type of stuff that they were doing to try to shut down, that's basically what the Court of Owls did behind the scenes. They rule Gotham, behind the scenes. So this is one of those times where it kind of made sense, where they went back and retroactively added somebody to the Batman mythos, which is hard to do for a character that's as storied and has been around as long as what Batman is, to add a character that makes sense, to say he's always been there, but Batman didn't know, and make it enjoyable. It's kind of hard to do, but Snyder and Capullo were able to pull it off.
Yeah, they killed it. I mean, that made some splashes. So those are the two of your kind of first appearances, first meeting. Now we're going to pivot. We're going to move into this other category, which is kind of cool. Like looking at your gallery, you and I have talked about these moments, but seeing your gallery and how you kind of played into it, you have a few pages that are the death pages. So we'd love to take a look at your Incredible Hulk 290, Death of Abomination.
Yeah, so it's kind of sadistic, right? But if you can't get a first appearance, get the appearance where they're at least not supposed to come back. So as far as Incredible Hulk 290, it's the first Hulk comic that I remember getting. This comic actually appeared, Berkey or Ramita Man art was selling on Dueling Dealers one night, and I just got into the show late, but he was showing it, and so it was kind of serendipitous, and I was able to make a deal with him on it. Interestingly enough, you can see how these middle panels kind of shine. That's because they're stats, but it's not because the art's not there. The art is there. It's just that editorial changed the order the art's in. And so, yeah, so they had this panel over here, and they had the death panel in the middle. So they just moved it around. So they copied the art that was under there and then stuck it. But unlike the Valiant pages, you can tell they must have used a much better glue. And because it's older than those Valiant pages, and it's still here today. So,
and if you shine through a light, can you see the art behind it?
Yeah, that's how I knew what order they were in, because I'm looking at it right here.
So it's funny, like times like this, it makes me think, damn, I don't want to miss out on those Dueling Dealers, because that's a freaking gem in itself.
Well, yeah, you can, and of course, the one of the keys is to wait till about the end where somebody's about to lose, and then throw that low ball bid in there, and so it kind of worked out. And so this is the issue with Miss Modoc. So it's the first appearance of Miss Modoc. It's also the death of Miss Modoc. She didn't die on this page, but it is this issue, and this is where she turns on Modoc for killing Abomination. So this kind of leads to her turning back to her former self. So
Now, was that intentional that it was like a death page, or was it just because it was your first comic and it just happened to be a death page?
it just happened to be a death page. And so when Berkey showed it off, I didn't have an example from that issue, although I knew I wanted one. So I'm like, what better one to get? Now, the first page splash, it's already on calf, so I knew it was already out there. There's a couple of other good ones for that, but what better than a death page from the issue, to be representative of the comic itself.
It's true. So let's then go to the next one, Death of Captain Marvel.
Okay.
Here we go.
All right, so this is an interesting one because much like the serendipity that I mentioned with turning into dueling dealers, this was on Heritage and I didn't know it. And so I had Heritage up and the bidding was just constantly going. I left my house, came back an hour later. I sat down in this chair and this was on the auction block. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
Awesome.
And so I got caught up in the bidding. And I think there's another page that we're going to show today that I have since paid more than I paid for this one. But at the time, this was the most I had paid for a deal. So unfortunately, because of the markers that were used by Jim Starlin, I had not that all the pages they're fading, all the marker or the inks fading.
No.
Yeah. So I knew that to be the deal. There's only a handful of these that are. I mean, this was Marvel's original graphic novel, and so this is through there. Jim Starlin was kind of writing his work through the pain of losing his father to cancer.
Yeah.
And so, they talk about the various steps of grief. You get mad, then there's acceptance, depression, all that kind of stuff. This is where Rick Jones actually does not want to admit that Captain Marvel's going to die. So, and so, of course, he says, well, there's nothing I can really do about it. But so it was a great page. Of course, like many people, have had people in my family die of cancer. Captain Marvel's one of the few characters in Marvel Comics that actually stayed dead over the course of years. I mean, that was back in the mid to late 80s when that happened. So it was a great page of history. Oversized. I actually packed it up and showed it to Jim earlier this year. Took a picture, and it's on my calf. Me and Jim taking a picture with it.
And that's a little before my time, I believe. But what was Marvel graphic novel exactly? Was it like a anthology book or?
No, they were Marvel graphic novels. Were like the magazine, but they were the paper quality was better, and so they told more adult stories. So Marvel graphic novel, The Death of Captain Marvel. The other one, probably also as well known as the first appearance of the New Mutants, is in Marvel graphic novel. They were trying to appeal to a different audience, really, with different storytelling than you would tell on the spinner rack.
That's cool. Yeah, I've never. Definitely Captain Marvel has never been in my periphery, and it still continues being outside of it. But it's pretty interesting how they actually killed him and kept him dead.
Right. I mean, yeah, he's had replacements. I mean, there's a female Captain Marvel, or Carol Danvers was known as Miss Marvel back then, and there's been several other Captain Marvels of different ethnic persuasions, but this one stayed dead, and so
I think it's a good thing. I think when they bring him back right away, or just kind of, I'm okay with like different versions, but when they bring him back, it just kind of defeats the purpose. Like,
I mean, it takes away from it. Yeah,
it takes away the stakes and the emotions, and I think even like the meaning on this page is so much more meaningful because he stayed dead, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, which is going to say, like, I'm going to go to my favorite of these three death pages, which is no surprise, a Valiant title, The Death of Rye, who also stayed dead, right, in his timeline.
Another story. So this particular Rye did stay dead. So this is the death page, not the page. This is the page from Solar 13, not the page that I originally read from Rye number 7. So,
And I remember this page because I vividly remember this page because you called me about it, and I was at Barnes and Noble in the manga section, walking up and down while all the kids are looking at me like, this guy is talking so loud on his headset, talking about Rye. Who the hell is Rye?
Yeah. Yeah, I called you about it because I had reached out to the former owner. Shout out to Dan for letting this one go. To see, hey man, I just lost my mind of what I'm about to pay for this page here. But so for those of you who don't know, there was so much going on in editorial during the Unity thing to keep the stories intact and together, that there was a lot of changing going on, so much so that it was floated around keeping Rye alive. So it was not even decided yet that Rye was going to die. But for the whole deal to kind of be meaningful, there had to be a sacrifice, right? It's kind of Rye plays kind of the Gandalf figure that fights the Balrog and says, "None shall pass." He holds off Mother God long enough for Solar to escape, and of course, with Solar's escape, spells her doom. His sword is actually used by her son to stab her in the back to distract her for Solar to take her down. So in the end, Rye wins. But like I said, there was a lot of stuff going on in editorial. So this top panel is actually printed 100 different places, and you can see a lot of them on my CAF gallery because I've taken to put them in there. But where I originally read it at was in Rye number 7. So that was the first Valiant comic I bought, and I said, "Whoa, here's a guy dying. Here's a new universe, and they're killing this guy off. This is awesome." And of course, to find out that he would actually stay dead was make it even more meaningful. But so this is done by Don Perlin and Stan Drake. And Joe St. Pierre is actually the artist. He did layouts really for Rye number 7. So I got to meet Joe for the first time at Heroes Con, and got to talking to him about this. And I showed him this panel. I said, "You didn't draw this, did you?" He said, "Nope." He said, he looks at the printed image. He goes, "That looks like Don Perlin." I said, "That's because it was," which just confirmed what me and Dan and others kind of, guessed as to what happened. What's also interesting in this, that the word bubbles have survived, and notice that there are word bubbles here. In the comic, she doesn't say anything. In the Solar 13 instance or in Rye.
Yeah, he just blasts him.
She just blasts him. Yeah. Mic drop, moves on. So, but with this, originally there were some words that she was planning on saying, and I guess at the end they said, "What else? What's there to say?" He's dead. So this is definitely one of the center points of my collection, and was glad to be able to add it there.
Great. That's a great piece. And I remember when you called me, I know the price was high, but to me it was like, knowing you, it's like a no-brainer. It's like, why would you even think twice? Because you've always loved Rye, man. You've always loved Rye. Even Southern Comic Geek, the font is based on kind of the Rye logo.
It is
Rye's support logo, and so I'm like, dude, no-brainer, man.
So what you mentioned is another not well-known fact, is that the font is from Rye and the Future Force. The colors are from that Rye and the Future Force that I copied to send to the designer. He took the colors and made it into there, and I just kept them. And so it did make sense. But, coming from the comics, comics have set values based upon multiple sales. Art's not that way. And what I've had to learn to do, whether it's the right decision for my wallet or not, but what I've had to learn to do is say, hey, look, when am I going to see this page next? If it means that much to me, just put a figure out there and live with it. Because you might not see it again. I mean, it might go into a black hole collection somewhere, and that's it.
That's true. It's these decisions you kind of have to make at the moments that you have them, and sometimes honestly, like I think the only regrets I've ever had was when I didn't pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, before we move on to the next topic, because these depth pages, I think it's a really fun category, and a lot of the reasons why I want to have these conversations with my favorite gallery owners here is because there's different reasons to collect, right? There's different ways to collect, and when you mention being a story collector, what does that mean to you? You were to like double click and unpack that a little bit more.
Yeah. So, an art collector collects for art's sake alone. So if it's a lot of times, especially in this day and age, covers are just illustrations or pinups, and they have nothing to do with the story themselves. And then so interior pages, they might be great, they might not be great. It might be not taking anything away from the artist, but if it's a great story and a mediocre artist, I'm probably going to lean more to getting that, just because I remember where I was when I read the book. I remember the story, so on and so forth. So it's kind of a memento to the story itself, not just the art. Not to take anything away from that. Obviously, if the art's like a David Finch, Jim Lee, type deal, it makes a big difference. But if all things being equal, I'm going to lean more to the story than what I am going to be the art by itself.
Yeah, in fact, it kind of leads me to this next topic, and that's why I asked is you and I have a lot of nostalgia of Valiant, and I think it's no secret that people who are fans of Valiant art is probably for the most part because of the stories, right? Now, we're fans of stories of even modern day. So one particular franchise that's been kind of captured in a whole new story format has been this Transformers franchise. And you were able to, in your collection, pick up, this Transformers the movie #2, page 25. So, and it's featured in your gallery. So, tell us more.
Yeah. So I've had this for a few years now. This is, of course, we're coming up on. It's hard to believe. I think it's the 40th anniversary. Is it 35, 40 years?
We're getting old.
Like, what happened? But so this is from issue 2. And this is the scene where Cup and would later be called, Rodimus Prime, but Hot Rod at this point is thrown in after the Quintessons judge them, thrown into the pit with the Sharkticons. Now, in the comic, it differs from the movie because in the comic, Grimlock is also in this deal. If you'll notice this panel here, down here, and over here. And so Grimlock doesn't actually come later in the movie. He comes in with the other Dinobots. It's not that way in the comic itself. So it was written out. Now these word bubbles are actually drawn on the page, which is really nice. So you'll never lose them. And last year, or year before last, I got Ralph, who is the writer, to sign that for me. Don Perlin, incidentally, who is the artist of the last page, is the artist of this page.
I love Don Perlin. He's great. And were you always like a hardcore fan of Transformers, or was it just this one page spoke to you in a certain way?
Well, I was a fan of Transformers, and in particular the movie. And so this was like a scene, that you remember from the movie, even though it deviated, somewhat from the movie itself. And so when I saw it posted on CAF by a fellow CAF collector, snagged it. And so added it for that reason.
Yeah, in fact, IDW had the Transformers license for a long time, and a few years back, it was kind of rumored that they were going to lose it, and no one knew exactly who was going to be carrying on the mantle. And so, what was really fun was it also coincided with Mr. Robert Kirkman announcing his new creator-owned book, Void Rivals, and it's no secret now, but on the last page of Void Rivals #1. They discovered on this planet a Transformer, which leads me to talk about a lot of your new uploads has been from that series. So tell us more.
Yeah, so anytime that a creator plays with an older IP, it can be very dangerous, right? Very dividing or divisive in the collector sphere, because some are going to say you can't touch everything. Everything's a sacred cow. Others are going to say it's not enough. So it's really hard to please somebody. I feel like with the creative team that Robert Kirkman, to include himself, Daniel Warren Johnson, all these other creators have been able to pin together stories across the fixing to be 4 ongoing titles that they've got with Skybound. Yeah, so to be able to say, hey, I've been able to, scratch that nostalgic itch enough, but also bring enough news story that you go, that kind of makes sense, is something that I think a lot of people, whether it's comic creators or movie producers alike, can really take ideas from. So this particular page is actually done for G.I. Joe, which is one of the Energon Universe deals. So PG-13 Carl is another big Energon guy. And so I was actually talking with him on the phone with him at last year's Heroes and saying, man, when are they going to drop that next issue? He said they just dropped it. He's like, all this serendipity that tends to happen. It might be just temptation that's put in my way and I fail every test. But nevertheless, I had texted him and I said, when are they going to drop this next issue? He said, they just dropped it. Get on the internet now. So as I'm walking back to my hotel, I'm claiming these pages right here. Now, interestingly enough, I never asked the artist why he did it in 2 different sizes here, but I sized
that. It's 2 different size paper altogether.
Yeah. See.
Wait, but it's a DPS though. It's a DPS. Oh, that's so strange. So he scanned it and resized it to put it together.
And for whatever reason, came up with the smaller one on the second one, which ruined my frameability of this piece, by the way, because this would definitely be there. So I like G.I. Joe. I never really collected or read G.I. Joe with Marvel back in the day, but I liked them. But when they were inserted with the Transformers, it made a lot of sense to me. Of course, they had done that with a miniseries back in the day too, but large part. But so not really collecting G.I. Joe. I wanted a piece that was kind of inclusive of everything. So this tells the story of not only Duke up to this point, where he first meets Starscream and his friend's killed, where he pulls the spine out of the bat, and then where all the other Joes are hanging around. This is the first time him and Cobra Commander come face to face at a standoff. And then, of course, this also tells Cobra Commander's, because there was a mini series that was done for Cobra Commander's deal. And so it tells, where he came from and who all he fought to get. And then, of course, the rest of the Cobra behind him. And then him standing here facing off against Duke. So the interesting thing with this is the artist that did this series for Cobra Commander actually worked digitally. So all these scenes you see right here, this is the first time you see them in actual print deal. So
that's cool.
So when I picked this up, Carl's like, man, if you're going to do one, that's the one to do because it's got everything on it. Like I said, the only bad thing is that it's size different because otherwise it'd be on my wall.
That's so strange, but yeah, no, that's a great piece. And I vividly also remember being at Baltimore Comic-Con when PG-13 Carl was transitioning from his like Superman collecting into this whole like Energon universe, and he was also really into like Gunslinger Spawn, and then he was letting go of some of those pages so he could move into this whole Energon world. And since then, I think he's accumulated a good amount of Energon universe pages. And,
that's right.
And I also remember how they introduced G.I. Joe was through the pages of Transformers, right? It was one of the early issues, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. And that's how they, now they've come since in the storyline they've come and they've met each other and kind of come to an agreement of who's on what side. But that's how they. It's interesting how they pulled it all together to include Mask, which is the latest of the Energon series that has been released currently. My understanding, according to Carl, is that the interior artist for Mask is not doing nothing but digital. So right now, the only art choice would be to get a cover. I have talked to one of the cover artists, but he's not selling yet. So we'll see.
I don't know Mask. Was that a big franchise?
Yeah. So Kenner and Hasbro were two competing companies, right? So Hasbro's knocking it out of the park with GI Joe and Transformers. So Kenner comes out with a combination of the two. So Mask is literally GI Joe and Transformers put together.
That's hilarious.
And so what happened eventually, Hasbro buys Kenner.
Okay.
So they own the Kenner properties.
That's
And
pretty
so, and they, I think IDW was the one that kind of merged them all together in the same world universe. So everybody kind of felt like it's only a matter of time. There was some kind of foreshadowing. Matt Tracker ended up in the page of one of the free comic books last year. So they knew it was coming. But, that's the other thing interesting about it is that Robert Kirkman didn't just play all his cards at once. Because if you're going to play all your cards at once, there's a storied way to tell Transformers. Bumblebee always has to be in it. He kills Bumblebee like the first or second issue and leaves him dead.
Yeah.
And then you got to have Megatron. Well, Megatron didn't show up too much later.
Yeah, way later. I mean, you were wondering where the heck is Megatron the whole time, right?
And then you also pull the Dinobots out. The Dinobots haven't even made it yet. Yeah. So he's saving the best cards for later. I'm sure like as sales start to maybe slag, he goes, all right, let's throw this out here now. So he's been able to tell it with characters that were not necessarily mainstays.
Yeah, no, really smart. Daniel Warren Johnson, also another kind of generational talent. Yeah. I think he like set the foundation of it all and brought like a lot of the heart to it. I haven't really dove into the Energon universe much since then, but I know PG-13 Carl has been deep in it. Now, speaking of another franchise, your feature gallery have a few highlights in there, and one of them is Star Wars Legacy. And so would love to hear more about your love for Star Wars.
So this is one of those instances, and there are many in this hobby, where as much as we love to spend our money on this art, we love to see other people spend money on art that they love. And so we will we will say, hey, did you see this? Hey, did you see this? Hey, did you see this? So Jeff Wedding reached out to me and he said, hey, I know you like Star Wars Legacy. He said, Dan Parsons is actually releasing some pages because George Lucas has like first dibs at these pages and stuff. And so they haven't, you would think after all this time, like some almost, 18 years later, that this stuff would have been kind of gone through the process, but it hasn't. And as it worked out, it didn't. And so I was able to get it. So sure enough, Dan did have some. And this is one of the pages that I picked up from him. I'm going to butcher his name, but Krenuk, he was a character from the Clone Wars. Which was a series that I read with Dark Horse. I feel like Dark Horse just did an excellent job in carrying on the legacy that had been built with the expanded universe. And of course, after the movie Clone Wars was released, they went back and expanded that out, like what all went on during the Clone Wars, not just what you saw in the 2-hour movie. And he was one of the characters that was introduced. So fast forward all these years, 130 years past the Battle of Yavin, which is kind of how they used to keep up with time in the Star Wars universe. You have Cade Skywalker, who is a descendant of Luke Skywalker. Not to spoil the story, even though it is almost 20 years old, but Cade was a troublesome child who was trying to find his way. And this is the page where it's revealed that Krenuk is still alive.
That's cool. I love that.
Of course, like I said, he was in Clone Wars, all that went down, Order 66, and all that. So nobody knows if he lived or if he died like a lot of the other Jedi did. So here he walks out, and he's there to observe Cade there. So Cade thinks he's hallucinating still. But, yeah, got a nice basically half-page splash there, Jan DeSerma and Dan Parsons on the inks there.
How did Dan drop these pages? Because if he had to show them to Lucas first, he then just got them all back and dropped them. And how did Jeff know that you wanted Star Wars Legacy? So specific.
Yeah, so I had picked up several Star Wars Legacy pages on a recent Comic Art Live.
Okay.
And so I had talked about in the listing about, how I was reading these straight off of the comic shelf. And so he knew it from that standpoint. So then he has bought multiple pages over the years from Dan. So he knows Dan. And so I don't know if he had reached out to Dan or Dan reached out to him and said, hey, I got these pages, So then after Jeff looked at what he wanted to get, he said, hey, anybody else want some? And so Kavi was another one that they reached out to or to see if he wanted any pages from there. But yeah, I got a cover, one of the covers, Star Wars Legacies, over there on my wall. I've got another cover in there, and then a 3-page sequence from another issue, different artists, but same series. In that particular series, I liked it because there was, again, enough callbacks to the old ways, but it was so far out that there was so much you could do. Like, everybody today tells a story that's in a 3-year period of time, and you know who's going to live and you know who's going to die, basically, right?
Yeah.
Like, because you know that if you read a story in a comic that Luke Skywalker is not going to die before Empire Strikes Back, because you already know how that works out.
Yeah.
So, versus in Legacy, you really didn't know that. And so it's far enough in the future. And then they kind of left Cade's lineage. So they don't really say if Cade is Ben Solo or Ben Skywalker. So in the books, Ben Skywalker is Luke and Mara's son. In the movie, they changed it for the movie, and it was Ben Solo, which was Han.
Got it. Oh, I didn't know that. So that's where Ben came from Star Wars Legacy. Oh,
and it's what, remember they called Obi-Wan Kenobi Old Ben Kenobi,
yes,
and so that's where they named him from. And so yeah, it was interesting. So Dan's actually going to be at Baltimore, so I might end up picking some more pages up from him there.
Yeah, I'm torn because there's that other convention, like the indie convention that I think Cass putting on, and I know Newell is going to be heading to that one. Usually I go to Baltimore, but I'm just undecided right now. So
I'm actually already booked for New York too.
Yeah, I'll be in New York for sure. New York would be fun.
I'm only going to be there Thursday and Friday. I'm fly out Saturday morning, but
oh God, well, we'll hang out. We'll be boothing this year, so it'll be fun. We're boothing at San Diego Comic Con and New York Comic Con. Lovely. Brutal.
Work.
Yeah, work. So Star Wars is part of this kind of Disney umbrella, and within Star Wars, one of many of our favorite kind of franchises in a sister company is Marvel. So going into some of it, we touched on some of your Marvel pages already. But there's a few other cool stories that I thought is worth visiting also on your feature gallery. But you had a little venture into Namor the submariner. And
Namor, yeah. So
and there's a cool appearance on this one that I thought was worth checking out.
Yeah. So this is one of the videos, because this page is hanging on my wall. I'm actually looking at it as I'm sitting here. But the interesting thing about this page was, so when I got chicken pox in junior high school, my mother came back from the Star Store with Power Man and Iron Fist 125. And that's the death of Iron Fist. And so the problem, so Iron Fist supposedly dies, right? And he was dead in Marvel world forever, right? Because it was like, let's see, that's late 80s, and then he don't come back to. So I mean, he's 4 or 5 years he was gone. So Namor is done by John Byrne. John Byrne had not created Iron Fist, but however had made him popular back in the day when Iron Fist had his own series, solo title series. So it made sense that when they came back with Namor, if they were going to reintroduce Iron Fist, is for John Byrne to do it. And this particular page is the page where he comes out full force. It had been building up to this. Spoiler alert. That's right. It's almost Street Fighter-esque, right?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Shoryuken.
but yeah, so he's held in that bubble, and he, his friends are fixing, getting beat up on, and his fist starts glowing, and then this is where he bursts forth. Now, John Byrne is the artist, Bob Wyachek, which inked so many great story covers, and you own the Secret Weapons one, don't you?
I do own the Secret Weapons, yes.
Yeah, so Secret Weapons 1 was one that Bob inked. And so Joe St. Pierre, of course, drew that. And but yeah, so Bob is blind now.
Oh, it was really sad. I think we discovered that together at one of the cons.
Yeah,
right?
he was at Baltimore 2 years ago. And he's gonna actually be at Baltimore this year. So I'm actually going to take that out of the frame and get him to sign it down there at the bottom on the other side from where John Byrne signed it from. So so this is the where he comes out. The cover kind of alluded to it. It just shows a fist coming out of the bubble and it glowing. Like this is the whole deal. Bob really earned his inking credits on this page right here, because if you go to my calf gallery, like every drop of water, is inked with a delicate hand. So
yeah, there's a badass splash, and what's really cool is it leads a few issues in to when Jay Lee has Iron Fist and Namor on the cover, right, back to back. That cover is freaking iconic, dude.
Yeah, there's a page from that issue that a certain dealer has that I've been tempted. It's not a bad price. It's just not a great one. So, but it's Jay Lee doing the interiors for that issue too, and it's got Iron Fist doing his acrobatic moves. But anyhow, so it was just great. And this particular page, I was on an airline flight, and I bought it off Comic Link, significantly cheaper than what I offered a guy to buy it out of his own collection on a Comic Art Live just a year prior. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, right? But so I picked it up and I was watching it, and trying to bid with airplane Wi-Fi. And if you ever done that, you know how frustrating and what am I going to do it?
That's the worst. I definitely lost. I know which page I lost. I lost. It was a Joe Quesada Ninjak. It was like a Valiant Vision page.
Oh yeah,
remember that? It had all like a sequence thing. He's like,
that's with the art decor. Is that the one that they put up in comic shops?
Yes, I think so.
Comic Link, wasn't it?
It was on Comic Link, and I was on a plane taking off, and I'm like, dude, it's like the last minute, refresh, and then it just like stalled, and I lost reception, and then I tried to reconnect the Wi-Fi, and I couldn't get back on Wi-Fi. I was like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I definitely have like trauma from that, because that's a huge regret. I love that page.
Yeah, that's a great one to have. I actually think it. Did I see that one on calf? I'm trying to remember.
I know who has it. Someone we know have it. Yeah,
okay, sure. Yeah, that's what I thought. So
yeah.
Okay.
While we're in Marvel Land, another cool character, I think, for Sabretooth's first appearance was an Iron Fist, right? And I think they had like a cool cover that we all know about. And you also have another Sabretooth DPS featured on your gallery. It's on the top left. So I was kind of curious, why it sits in such a high place in your collection.
Well, so on my gallery page, those are not in any kind of order. When I have ones that are horizontal as opposed to vertical, I try to make them symmetrical if I have another one that's that way. And so I move them around for that reason, but it's not because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in my mind. But yeah, I see the segue that you did there. It's pretty nice. Yep. So this is it right here. So this is Gary Frank art. On the back it says 175. If only I had paid that for it. Yeah. So this was on Albert Moy's website. I popped on and I beat Jason D'Ambrosio to it, among other people. And,
he was so mad. This is such a sick page, though. I love these DPS.
So Gary Frank, he was killing it. I mean, the wings look like they're coming out at you on the page. And of course, the story between these two characters is that the story itself was in a chromium issue. Michael Golden actually did the cover to this. This is one of those, sicknesses where you try to put an issue back together again, and you pick a 40-page one. Why wouldn't you pick a 10-page one, Jason? But
wait, you're trying to put this back together?
Yeah, you don't see how many pages I own in my gallery.
I didn't see. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, so it's a chromium cover, but this is the cover where they're going to transition Sabretooth from being after the Age of Apocalypse, where right before Wolverine had popped a bone claw into his skull. He comes back. He's acting like he's harmless. He ends up gutting Psylocke, which is a callback to the Alan Davis days, where Psylocke and Sabretooth fight. This time Sabretooth wins. So the original X-Men, who were at one time X-Factor, go after Sabretooth. At the end of the story, spoiler alert, Valerie Cooper, they capture Sabretooth, who's supposedly dead. We all know better. He's got a healing factor. And so they're going to put a collar on him and use him in the X-Factor team for quite some number of years after this. But they're trying to capture him, and he slashes his wings. Now, this is also a start of a story where Archangel gets his original wings back.
Brutal. The back, it gets ripped out.
What's interesting about that is there's a Joe Mad page where he gets his original wings. He sheds all the metal in one giant splash on one page, and it just came up on Heritage last month. Yeah, it went for more than I was willing to pay for it, but I wanted to put it in conjunction with this, right? But yeah, so Sabretooth was part of the Marauders, that's how Archangel lost his wings in the first place. So it's kind of poetic that when he does this, he ends up getting his wings back. But there's also a story in the X-Factor run where they fought on a rooftop, and it came to basically a tie. And so this is kind of where you decide as to who really won in this fight. But nevertheless, this is why I have this and why I was able to, scoop it up so quickly off of Albert's site, because this is definitely one of the best pages in the issue. So
that's a great story moment in itself. I think anything with the angel and the wings, I felt like I've always loved the character. For some reason, I never got into any of the pages, because the pages that I always want, everyone wants them. Anything to do with their wings, like, it's Archangel and Angel, they're always like, they're always just taken. And so I would love
it's kind of like Wolverine and claws, right? So like if the claws are out, it's more
exactly.
And so same thing with the wings. Like if his wings are spread out in any kind of fashion, there's a Steve Lytle cover for the miniseries of Archangel that's online. It's not that bad of a price to be what it is, but it's a wraparound cover. The wings are all spread out, so it's a wraparound cover.
Yeah, I'm very big on. Was it Wolf Portasio that was doing a lot of Archangel? Yeah. For some reason, his Archangel would be the sample I would want when it comes to that character. And then for Sabretooth, Mark Texiera, man. Dude,
yeah.
Wolvie fan got that #1 cover. That thing is awesome. That thing is awesome.
That covers something else. And there's a couple of great pages that I've passed on. It always comes up where there's something you want a little bit more. You can have anything you want, just can't have everything you want. Yes. And you just have to let one go. And
even there's a DPS from issue 1 that I think Wolvie fan initially bought. He ended up buying the cover, and he put the DPS on sale. And then I just haven't been able to pull a trigger on that, because there's just other things that I'm into and has not been a priority. But if there was a Tex Sabretooth DPS or Splash, that's a cool one, because he's fighting all the ninjas and everything. All right, let's while we're still on Marvel Land, we'll cut back to this Marvel Land. Incredible Hulk, Ultimate Destruction. Let's dive into this one.
So Bill had a sale with Brian, and it was discovered that he actually had this particular illustration. This thing is 16.5 by 25.5. It's huge. In the video, you'll see that his Hulk's hand is literally the same size as mine. So it's a great image. It was used for not only in the UK but also in the American advertisements for the Hulk game. Which, for those of you who don't know, Brian Hitch played a lot of role in like the Ultimate, not only the Ultimates, but in video game, in design, and that kind of thing. And so he done this one. This is the advertisement. I know the guy who got the cover to this game. So the guy reached out to me right after the sale, and he said, "Hey, man, you picked up a great piece. I was walking my dog. I missed it." I was like, "Look, I tell you what I do. I got some other pieces in that same sale." I said, "I'll let you have this one. I'll tell Bill you can have it." He said, "Okay, great." Well, he calls Bill, and come to find out, Bill had the cover. He didn't know what it was too. Bill didn't. And so he says, "Well, I got this one." And he goes, "I want that one." So the guy messages me back and says, "Look, man, I appreciate the offer, but I'm going to take the cover." I'm like, "You dirty dog." But this one's a great one too. So,
yeah. Oh no, but this is great. No, this is awesome. And did you know it was gonna be that big? I know Brian Hitch works pretty big, but like this poster was something you recognized because you actually played the game.
Oh yeah, me and my not really my it was really my second oldest son just loved this game. We just play hours on end, and so I recognized the illustration from that. But I didn't know it was going to be that big. Bill showed it on the deal, and something about Brian Hitch's art to me, just me personally, I don't really like the regular size stuff as much.
Okay.
But when he goes up to like oversized, which he does a lot, when he goes oversized, it's like he unlocks something for me that makes it just worth more. It's just like he goes the extra mile. Like it's something about like when he crimps his art style up, it's not as nice to me. I don't know, but so this is definitely a size piece. Huge part in the wall there in the comic book room.
Yeah, like one of the Cuber brothers, he goes really big too, like 18 by 24. And I think I did have something from Brian Hitch back in the day from Captain America. It was like a big Captain America robot, but I think like at the time I was pretty early in my collecting, and it was just too big. I didn't know where to put it. Like I just didn't have a place for it. And so now I have like these flat files and whatnot. But I think I agree with you. I think his art looks it's like awesome to look at because they're just so big.
Yeah. It was massive. It actually, before I moved stuff around, it was where that Iron Fist and a couple of other covers are right now, taking up that whole wall.
Nice. So that covers almost all your feature gallery pieces, and now we're about to get to I saved the best for the last, in my opinion, which is not only the best because of who the artists are, two of my personal favorites, but I actually used to own this piece, so I thought it'd be fun for us to talk about it.
Yeah. So what the one that he's referring is this Deathmate, page 1. So besides the fact that this came from the Carl Choi pedigree here, is that this is Barry Windsor Smith, inked by Jim Lee. Only time it's ever been done. So there's only like 8 or 11 pages in this part of the story in the Deathmate prologue, which is where this comes from. And my understanding is that Scott Williams actually inked the stuff that was DPS's, like the big stuff Scott actually inked, because Scott owns a couple of pages from this, but that would then lead me to believe that the single pages Jim actually drawn, and with it being the first one, it would make sense that he would start out doing it and get behind at some point during the issue and say, "Hey Scott, can you rescue me?" Make it look like me, but keep it like Barry, right? Which is what Scott would be used to doing with Jim's work here. The word bubbles are still on it, which is fantastic. Unfortunately, it's not signed by Barry Windsor Smith, and unless the stars align, will never be signed by Barry Windsor Smith. However, Jim Lee is going to be at Baltimore this year, and I've already purchased the Jim Lee ticket. And so this is actually going to be signed. And my smiling face with Jim is going to be holding this thing in a couple of months. So
Yeah, no, this you know, as painful as it was to let it go, I'm happy it's in your collection because I had to make a decision. You know, some of you guys know I you know went in for a big piece, which I still have not revealed. But when I made the decision to go for it, I literally had to hunker down the whole collection, and any pieces that I could let go of, I had to let go of. And like I would say the thesis was to cut my collection in half. So any books that I had multiple examples on, I just said, you know what, I just got to pick one and let the other one go. I can safely say this was one of my most painful ones to let go. But I was also so happy that you're the one that got it because you had an interesting story of how it went down too, right? Which I
Yeah.
want to
So
share because of just as collectors, I think we should all know that these opportunities exist.
yeah, for sure. And so it wasn't as easy as me saying, "Hey, Carl, you want to sell this page?" or Carl saying, "Hey, Jason, you want to buy this page?" No, I found out that he had posted it on the deal, and I said, "Carl, you put this page up for sale?" He's like, "Yeah." He told me the story that he just mentioned there, and so I'm watching it. I'm winning. I start getting outbid. I got distracted because my camera for on one of my properties rings off, and I'm like, "Who are these people on my thing?" I miss it. I get outbid. It's gone. All this time, I've sit there and waited for this piece, and it's gone. It just slipped from my grasp. So I'm like, well, maybe it was bad for the best. You know, I've talked about all these serendipity pieces earlier. You know, maybe this is the right thing, and I just kind of let it go at that. Well, then I noticed the make offer button because they send you an email after everything's said and done, and if the person has that setting on there, you can make an offer. And so that's what I did, and I made an offer, and the person accepted it. So I was not the first winner of Carl's piece. I was the second winner. So it never left Heritage. I bid it. The other guy accepted it. So he got a little cut of the pie. And he probably is like many of us, bought too much and it's like, yeah, okay, I'll let this one go and make a little bit of money at it. So
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, I think there's a lot of dealers that are on these auction sites that buys at a low price, and I definitely paid like way more than even what you paid for it. And so another lesson I think on the other side of things that I've learned is, man, like sometimes, yes, like at the time I just didn't have any time to think about it. I had to just like ship a bunch of stuff off. But in hindsight, I wish I would just been like, "Hey, Jason, like I know you may be interested in this or not," and just like gave it to you directly. Because I think in between all those transactions, I shaved off a bunch of dollars, and you shaved off a bunch of dollars, and we could have probably both saved some money, right? And I could
yeah.
make it more. And so that's like a lesson learned when it comes to this community that before you let something go, think about, you know, who might want it. Because I think, you know, that's a step I completely skipped because I think I was just like, yeah, I think it was when I was about to get into production and I was about to disappear for a few months and I knew that I was going to have time to do it. So I just kind of let it go. But if you are ever an opportunity to not do that, I would always advise, you know, bringing it to the community, and don't be shy about it either. Because I feel like a lot of folks like us, right? Like we love being offered stuff that we're looking for, right? Like we will not hesitate to want to put an offer or have a discussion about. And so that's definitely one of those moments where, you know, there's some lessons learned.
Well, and you know, I hear some people complain about getting fielded with or flooded with offers, and you know, to me, I actually like it because that tells me that somebody likes my taste so much that they
Yeah.
want to pay me what I paid or more. Right now,
Yes.
of course, you get low ballers, whatever. But I'm saying that so our hobby is small enough to
Mm-hmm.
where most of us like in the Valiant circles or in the Incredible Hulk circles or whatever, your little circle, people know whatever people like. We look out for each other on stuff. And so yeah, like Carl said, reach out to those people inside that group and say, hey guys, no hurt feelings if nobody's interested or don't have the money at this time, but I'm gonna offer this piece up. If
Yeah.
anybody's interested, let me know.
Yeah, no, I am all for offers because I just don't understand sometimes where I think there is definitely like a generation of collectors that don't share their art because they say they're like bothered by all the offers. So I don't know why that's the case. I actually never understood that. Maybe it's just because our generation, the hobby has change a bit. Maybe there was a moment where there was like all kinds of trolls or all kinds of bothersome people that gets a little too aggressive or whatnot. But yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like I need to hide the collection in any way, because I feel like, what's this hobby about? It's about sharing.
Exactly. And there's pages that I'm sure you got some too that I think, okay, if I could get some pages from a book, I would love to get these pages.
Yeah.
Where do you go? Which is some of the thrill of the hunt, right? But sometimes you start asking around and people go, yeah, I've already got that. And you go, wait a minute, what? You don't share that out that you've got that? And they're like, yeah, I don't like people knowing. And I'm going, why? It's awesome. Like sharing the joy,
Exactly. I'm the same way. All right, so we're going to land the show, but I like to land the show with some kind of a few things. Kind of one, is there anything you're still chasing? Is there like a grail out there that, putting into ether, maybe you haven't seen it or it's somewhere? Is there that one piece in, I'm guessing in the Valiant world that's on your radar?
Well, as it so happens, there are a couple, and most of them are on calf right now. And I've already made overtures, if that's the right word, to these people to say, hey, I'm serious. If you ever want to sell, keep me in mind. But they would be those, and those are covers. Again, I'm not much of a cover collector as I am an interior, especially when it comes to Valiant, but those are covers that I would love to own in my Exo Man of War 14 is one of them. Magnus the Robot Fighter number 12, which is the first appearance of Turok.
OG. That's OG one.
Yeah, so those would be two that I would love to have in the collection. Will that ever happen? Who knows? You never can tell. A lot of the ones that I've got today, I've thought, man, there's no way I would ever be able to get that piece. Either I didn't know it existed, or they were in tight grips of lifelong collectors, and some finally just said, hey, I want to let them go.
Yeah, and then the last thing I'd love to leave the audience with is maybe some words of wisdom. Like, all of us are like big old kids, but you have 6 kids and you have a 800-page collection. How do you balance the two? And what are some words of wisdom you would share with us on how to have a really balanced life?
Well, the magic was that I had my first set when I was young. My wife and I were both young when we had our first set. To be clear, it's not by a different woman. They're all by the same person. But the first 4 are grown and married, and they're out of the house. And the last 2 were 2, little kids. And so I'm at a different station in life where financially I can actually not have to worry about paying the bills as much as I can, spend money and have disposable income. As far as balancing it all, if you can get your family into the hobby, I know that my youngest son went with me to Heroes Con most recently, has art on his wall. I just purchased some art that's from Nick Barucci last week that's actually going on his wall. It's a Jay Lee cover. But anyway, see if you can get them in.
I like those Disney covers. Those are great.
Yeah, it's the Muppets number 2.
Yeah, it's the Muppets. Those are great. I was gonna buy those. I was thinking about it. They're great.
Yeah. So Nick, going back to what we were saying earlier about catching people needing a few sales to make the win. So Nick came off of the price of the cover in order to make the win. So get them involved if you can. At the end of the day, it's a fun hobby, and if it stops being fun, stop doing it. My suggestion would be to try to be a little more focused than what I typically am. My collecting is about as eclectic as I am. So maybe not 800 plus pages are not right for you. Maybe you have a much sized down collection like Carl Troy here. But
sized down. I was at around 800-ish, almost. I think 700 something. And I'm about half of that now. So
but whether it's a sketch cover, whether it's comic strip art, interiors, covers, whoever, collect what you like. And then let everybody else come around. Don't collect something just because somebody else likes it, because the effect will wear off soon enough, and then you'll be regretting your life choices. So because there's a community out there. Like when I started first collecting Valiant, I thought there ain't nobody else out here that likes this stuff. And then I run into this guy at Baltimore, and we get to nerding out, and everybody else that I've met since then too.
It's fun. I think the Valiant crew, I think we all know who each other is, and we kind of got our own little like sections of stuff, and it's really fun. I think that's the big part of collecting, and being able to share with each other and kind of grow together, because the pieces do get passed around, comes around, and we're all just like temporary stewards of all these pieces. And so yeah, it's great advice. I guess the takeaway for me is to start young, which I didn't, so I've missed that boat. So I'll just remain a kid, and I could be year 7. All right, Jason, thank you for making time for this. As always, folks, thanks for tuning in. Collecting with Carl. There's a new channel, and you're one of my early guests, and I had to have you on here because we had to explore your eclectic collection, which wasn't too eclectic. I felt like it was actually had themes that I think resonates with a lot of us. And I think the big picture to me is a story collector is could be different than like someone who really just goes after art for the art's sake, which to me, I actually have someone in mind that I would love to invite on here, who's like all about art, because I'll like crap on the story. He'll be like, I don't care, I love the art. And I don't think that will work for you and I, because we're both pretty on the story side. So yeah. So with that said, folks, thanks for tuning in. We will see you at the next episode.